Chapter 1: The Magical Computer. At 9 o'clock in the evening, the weather had already darkened. In modern society, 9 o'clock is the time when nightlife begins. This is especially true for many young people. However, there are also many people who are still working hard for this beautiful life of their own. Under the bright LED light, Yu Liang took a screwdriver and connected the solid-state drive in front of him to the computer. He is a cybersecurity officer for a large private import-export company. Although it can't be compared with those sales elites, after a year, they can still have a small income of 200,000 yuan. In Yongcheng, a new first-tier city, it can be regarded as more than enough than the top. Coupled with the sake of the locals, life is still pretty good. Yesterday, Yu Liang picked up a 1 terabyte Great White Shark SSD in the grocery store in the downstairs community. Because I am engaged in this line of work, so the purchase price is not expensive. The reason why I got an old hard drive is to upgrade my computer. After all, his old desktop computer was already in years ago. Of course, if you don't play the latest games, don't draw various blueprints. Just do your office work and watch movies occasionally. That's more than enough. It's just that everyone knows it. The longer the computer is used, the more various software is installed in it. Hard drive. When I bought it that year, I felt that the 500 gigabyte hard drive was big enough. But look now. What's the matter? Back then, my structure was still too small. Today's hard drives, let alone 1 terabyte, even 2 or 3 terabyte are everywhere. Installing the hard disk of the desktop computer is not complicated, and Yu Liang quickly fiddled with it. Then he turned on the computer, and in computer management, rescanned the disk. The next moment, a new disk was displayed immediately. When Yu Liang was about to carry out the next formatting operation, a dialog suddenly popped up on the computer interface. Do you want to bind a magic hard disk? Weather. What is this? Yu Liang was stunned for a moment, then became excited. After all, he is only 25 years old this year, and it has only been 3 years since he graduated from college. So, he's no stranger to things like systems. Could it be that he has become the chosen one? After all, Yu Liang's university major is the Department of Computer Science. Whether it's software or hardware, it's all covered. Although he ended up working as a network security engineer in a trading company, he hasn't given up on his skills. This was the first time he encountered such a situation. Taking a deep breath, Yu Liang chose yes without hesitation. The next moment, the computer started running quickly. The old-fashioned fan word, and the sound seemed to get a little louder at this moment, making people a little worried whether this old guy might go on strike at any time. Fortunately, after a few difficult minutes, the interface on the screen finally changed. Yu Liang also breathed a sigh of relief. For him, the few minutes just now counted down like years. Host, Yu Liang. Race, human. Possessibility, full score 5 points. Computer software, LV, 0.9. Computer hardware, LV, 0.4. Number of lucky draws owned, 0 times. Looking at this attribute, Yu Liang's face darkened slightly. What the hell? Who is this looking down upon? My university major is the Department of Computer Science. I have studied for 4 years, although the knowledge I have learned is relatively old. However, everything remains the same, and he understands the basic things anyway, and he doesn't know how many times he has dismantled computers, switches, service stations, etc. However, the evaluation given to him by this hard drive turned out to be LV 0.9, not even LV1. As for the LV 0.4 computer hardware evaluation, Yu Liang directly ignored it. He muttered a curse in his mouth. If he wasn't afraid of yelling at himself, he would have scolded this hard-won system away. He promises to scold for 3 days and 3 nights without repetition. The host has just bound a magical computer, and a special gift package is given to novices. Do you want to receive it? Whether. Nonsense, of course choose yes. Although Yu Liang was a little bit worried about the computer's evaluation of him. However, to be a man, one must have a mind as broad as the sky. Therefore, Yu Liang decided not to bother with this ignorant system. With Yu Liang clicked a yes. The computer screen flickered again. This time, a huge roulette appeared on the screen. Everything on the roulette is densely packed with white light spots. It seemed to have petty print on it. However, All the characters are dim and cannot be read clearly. The next moment, the roulette turned directly. After 20 seconds, it slowly stopped, and the pointer steadily designated a small square. Then, the handwriting on the small square lit up. Permanent garbage station. What's going on here? My newbie gift pack should be distributed by lottery. However, what is the concept of distributing a garbage station? The corner of Yu Liang's mouth twitched slightly, and he moved the mouse to the garbage bin. As a result, a description emerged. When Yu Liang read the above explanation clearly, his eyes were filled with surprise. It turned out that this garbage station has unimaginable magical functions. It is not the kind of garbage dump that comes with the computer system. Rather, it belongs to the garbage dump of the real world. This garbage station has two functions. The first function is to search for all forgotten or abandoned items within a radius of 10 miles from Yu Liang himself. In other words, if something is hidden, however, because of the passage of time, or some reasons, it was forgotten. Thus, these things become ownerless. And through this garbage station, you can see all unowned objects within this range. That is to say, after you pick it up, you can use it with confidence without worrying about being caught by a thief. The second function is a bit mysterious. That's this dumpster, and there's a search option. It can be used once a month to be able to search for something by name. Of course, this thing must also be unowned. And the range, worldwide, as long as it is still on this earth, it can be found. At this moment, Yu Liang's heart was shaking. In human history, the valuable period is only a few thousand years. However, in these thousands of years, it is unknown how many precious things have been abandoned or forgotten. Today, there are magic computers and garbage dumps. These treasures may all see the light of day again. Yu Liang suppressed his excitement and clicked on the garbage bin. The next moment, countless words swish, swish, swish appeared on the computer screen. Within a radius of 10 miles, all the unowned things are in it. Of course, the vast majority are truly worthless junk. However, there are also rare things inside. Gold, silver, copper coins, emeralds, renminbi, US dollars, euros, ghost yuan. Ah, this is it? My goodness. This is Bitcoin. Chapter 2 Bitcoin worth $80 billion. Bitcoin. As a native of Manhwa, most of you must have heard of the name Bitcoin. Although the vast majority of Manhwa people must have never seen what Bitcoin looks like. However, as a qualified network security engineer who graduated from a computer department with professional skills close to LV1, Yu Liang is no stranger to Bitcoin. After graduation, Yu Liang has been working in this company. Because the company's vice president in charge of network security and head of the network department is an old friend of his uncle Yu Jiang, so his immediate boss treats him fairly well. In the past few years, Yu Liang has traveled to beautiful countries in Europe with his supervisor. It can be regarded as having seen the world. When he was in Europe, a technician from the reception company boasted to him, saying that he bought a few bitcoins before they became popular. And now it's rich. That's right, although only a few bitcoins. But it is already rich. The current market price of Bitcoin is already more than 20,000 US dollars. You read that right. If one Bitcoin is sold today, it will be worth 20,000 US dollars, or about 140,000 renminbi. If it is 10 Bitcoins, it is 200,000 US dollars, or about 1.4 million yuan. If this is not considered getting rich, then what is called getting rich? Therefore, Yu Liang was also curious about Bitcoin and applied for a wallet on the largest virtual currency trading network. However, the price of Bitcoin at that time was already unattainable for him. Therefore, Yu Liang did not buy it. I can only look at the empty wallet inside that time is gone. He vowed that if he could travel back to the era when Bitcoin was worthless, he must not buy stocks, houses, or start a business, but buy all his money in Bitcoin. Bitcoin appeared in 2009. The earliest Bitcoin price was generated in 2010. A programmer in the beautiful country exchanged 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 pizza coupons worth $25. This is the first time that Bitcoin has a price. 10,000 Bitcoins, roughly equal to $50. After conversion, a Bitcoin is not even a penny, only a mere 0.5 cents. And now, $20,000. In just over 10 years, it has increased by a full 4 million times. In the world, what kind of business is there Is there anything crazier than it? Now, everyone knows that Bitcoin is worth money. Therefore, as long as there are people who have Bitcoins, they all collect them carefully. However, when this thing was first born, it cost less than a penny. Naturally, not many people care. So, the possibility of Bitcoin being forgotten is not small. At this time, looking at the 11 Bitcoin keys lying quietly in the garbage dump, Yu Liang was so excited that it was difficult to calm down. For Bitcoin transactions, in addition to the secret key, there is also a Bitcoin wallet. It's a place to store your digital currency, which is essential no matter what kind of exchange you use. This storage wallet stores the private key for Bitcoins, which is a secret number, a 256-bit string. Use your private key to access your Bitcoins. This private key allows you to move freely in the market. No matter which Bitcoin trading platform you buy on, as long as the private key is in your hands, you can sell it in any market. At this time, the 11 Bitcoin private keys just appeared in the garbage dump. In other words, these 11 Bitcoins were actually forgotten within 10 kilometers of Yu Liang as the center point. As for why their original owners had forgotten them, maybe it's because the person in charge of these private keys suddenly encountered misfortune, so it's too late to explain, and this private key happens to be known only by him? This is only within a radius of 10 kilometers. So, how many forgotten Bitcoins are there in the world? As soon as this idea came up, Yu Liang broke into a cold sweat with excitement. He opened the garbage bin again and found the top global search. Type Bitcoin into the box. After clicking OK, the machine started running crazily. A full 5 minutes passed. Schwa! Rows of Bitcoin wallets and private keys flowed out like a waterfall. Swipe. Yu Liang never imagined that one day he would feel so beautiful when he saw the swiping screen. I don't know how long it took, but the machine finally stopped. Then, Yu Liang glanced at the statistics. Even though he was mentally prepared, he couldn't help but gasp. God! 410,3438 Bitcoins. Worldwide, more than 4 million Bitcoins have been forgotten. What an incredible thing this is. Bitcoin is not infinite. Unlike most currencies, Bitcoin is not issued by a specific monetary institution. It is generated through a large number of calculations based on a specific algorithm. The Bitcoin economy uses a distributed database composed of many nodes in the entire P2P network to confirm and record all transaction behaviors, and uses cryptography to ensure the security of all aspects of currency circulation. The decentralized nature of P2P and the algorithm itself can ensure that the value of the currency cannot be artificially manipulated by producing a large number of Bitcoins. Cryptography-based design allows Bitcoins to be transferred or paid only by real owners. This also ensures the anonymity of currency ownership and circulation transactions. The biggest difference between Bitcoin and other virtual currencies is that its total quantity is very limited and it is extremely scarce. The currency system used to have no more than 10.5 million in 4 years, after which the total number will be permanently limited to 21 million. Although mining is far from over now. However, 4 million pieces have been forgotten. This forgetting does not mean being stolen, but that it is really gone. Just like gold will be buried in the ground and sink into the sea, paper money will be burned, torn, and so on. Bitcoins, too, will be lost. However, this amount of loss is really a bit large. Already a little dizzy, Yu Liang quickly calculated. If every Bitcoin is worth 20,000 US dollars, so how much are 4 million Bitcoins worth? $80 billion? My God, do you actually have such a large amount of wealth in your hands? Yu Liang trembled with excitement. However, he also knew that this was just wealth on paper. It is not an easy task to actually exchange them into currencies of various countries. If he sold it all at once, it will definitely cause a Bitcoin crash. Therefore, if you want to maximize your benefits, you still need a little bit. Perhaps these Bitcoins may not be able to sell all of them when he dies. Chapter 3: The Millionaire. After half an hour, Yu Liang, who was hot all over, finally calmed down. He clicked the save option without hesitation and saved all the 4 million Bitcoin keys. Then it is necessary to find a way to exchange these Bitcoins into currencies that you can use. For ordinary people, even if you hold Bitcoin in your hand, but it is not so easy to change to RMB. However, as the saying goes, it is not difficult for those who meet, but not for those who are difficult. Yu Liang has enough research on Bitcoin. Before Bitcoin was banned in China, Bitcoin could be converted into RMB at any time on domestic trading platforms. However, since the domestic ban, all trading platforms can only be moved to foreign countries. For example, at present, Yu Liang can only trade outside the market. All over the world, there are many platforms for trading virtual currencies. Transactions can be made in any country that does not ban Bitcoin. Of course, you must first have an account of your own. Yu Liang thought for a moment, but did not choose his USD account. It's very simple. If you use that account, then when you withdraw cash, you will inevitably incur taxes and fees. Yu Liang doesn't want to add bricks and tiles to the beautiful country. If Yu Liang only had a dozen or so Bitcoins in his hands, he certainly wouldn't think so much. But more than 4 million Bitcoins. Well, if you want to mention them all, you probably have to open an account in a bank all over the world. Yu Liang logged into the Huobi Trading Center where he usually goes and took a look at the current market value of Bitcoin. A Bitcoin is 20,446 US dollars. After thinking about it, he transferred a total of 50 Bitcoins into his wallet. Then he placed an order for 10 pieces separately. In almost a moment, Bitcoin was successfully sold. 10 Bitcoins in the sea of Bitcoins with a market value of more than 1 trillion US dollars can't even make a little bit bigger waves. However, although this money is not seen by large institutions. However, in Yu Liang's eyes, it was already quite extraordinary. When withdrawing coins, Yu Liang directly chose RMB to withdraw cash. After deducting the handling fee, there are also more than 200,000 US dollars, which is equivalent to more than 1.4 million renminbi. In just one night, he is now a veritable millionaire. Xiao Liang, it's 12 o'clock. Go to sleep, and I have to go to work tomorrow. Mother Shihui knocked on the door lightly and whispered. Yu Liang quickly said, "Okay, Mom, I understand. Although I got a magical hard drive today. However, if you want to fully understand this hard disk, you still need a certain amount of time to study it. Sharpening a knife does not cut firewood by mistake. The body is the most important." Yu Liang washed up hastily, then fell asleep. However, I was so excited today that I couldn't fall asleep. Tossed and turned on the bed until 3 or 4 in the morning before falling asleep in a daze. While sleeping soundly, the phone rang. Open your eyes and see. What the hell, is it only 8:30? What then? It's 8:30? The unit where he works is not far from home, in an office building that can be reached within a 10-minute walk. Although this office building is not new anymore, it is an old building with a history of more than 20 years. However, this location is good, close to the city center, at the intersection of Metro Line 1 and Line 2. Therefore, there are quite a few people who are willing to work here. Yu Liang used to choose this company because it is close to home and convenient transportation is also a major factor. The company clocks in at 9 o'clock and 8:30, which really can't be considered early. He glanced at the notification of the incoming call and connected. "Dad, what's the matter? Did you kid not get up?" "Ah, how do you know?" "Hey, you are my son. When I saw you sleeping in the morning, I knew I stayed up late last night." "Hey, you are getting older, so you should play less games in the future." Yu Hai sighed and said, "I won't be with you." Said, "Go to work quickly." "Okay, thanks, Dad." After hanging up the phone, Yu Liang glanced at the phone. "Do you still need to go to work after owning this magical hard drive? Hey, let's go. God knows if this hard drive will always exist." After selling all the Bitcoins and ensuring that the huge sum of money for food and clothing in this life arrives in the account, let's resign. Yu Liang got up, got dressed, washed up, and ran out. On the way, I bought a pair of flatbread fried dough sticks with soy milk. Arrived at the company at 8:57 a.m. and successfully clocked in using the software DingTalk. However, when I entered the company today, I felt completely different from before. It seems that his mentality has unconsciously undergone a huge change. At the very least, there is no longer the conscientious and cautious attitude of the past. At this time, Yu Liang's mentality was extremely relaxed. It's an attitude of not staying here but staying there. Along with it, even his eyes and behavior have undergone subtle changes. However, even people who are extremely familiar may not be able to see it. Yu Liang's job is actually not complicated. It is to manage the company's network security well. Of course, if the various departments want to hold meetings, conduct video conferences, etc., he also needs to proofread and help. All in all, this job is quite easy. Plus 200,000 a year. To be honest, although there is no room for development and improvement, it is more than enough if it is used for retirement or to maintain life. At work today, Yu Liang checked the work log. I found that there was nothing I needed myself. So, he began to fish in an open and honest manner. Opening QQ Messenger app, Yu Liang found an old friend. This old friend is called Tan Yun, and he is an employee of an agency company. His main business is to do various things overseas for clients. The two companies have many businesses, and even Yu Liang is familiar with him. Yu Liang, Mr. Tan, are you there? Tan Yun, Mr. Yu, what's the matter? Yu Liang, I want to open a cash account overseas. How much is the handling fee? Tan Yun, oh, Mr. Yu has made a fortune. Yu Liang, to get rich is to open an account. Tan Yun, all right, I promise to give you the best price. In which country do you want to open an account? Yu Liang, let me think about it. One from Singapore, one from Germany, one from Portugal, and one from the Devils. Tan Yun. Yu Liang? Tan Yun, brother, do you want to open accounts in 4 countries at the same time? Yu Liang, yeah, what's the matter? Tan Yun, nothing, but the handling fee is probably not small. Yu Liang, it's okay. I will prepare the certificates and materials. Sorry for the trouble. Tan Yun, all right, wrap it on me. Yu Liang, hey, Mr. Tan, remember to hurry up. Tan Yun, urgent equals more money. Yu Liang, yes. The reason for opening accounts in different countries is naturally because Yu Liang wanted to deceive others. Moreover, Bitcoin is traded in some countries without taxation. This tax rate is also a great fortune. If you can save it, save it. Chapter 4, Repaying the Mortgage. Open the bank card and look at the more than 1.4 million renminbi lying quietly inside. For the former Yu Liang, this is undoubtedly a huge sum of money. So, how to use this money? Yu Liang already had a plan in mind. Pay off the mortgage. Yu Liang's parents had children relatively early, and the first child was born when he was 24 years old. They often express regret about this. Because of Yu Liang, there is no such thing as a two-person world. However, after the country opened up the second child, they immediately responded to the call and gave Yu Liang a younger sister. Therefore, Yu Liang, who is 25 years old this year, has a younger sister who is only 5 years old with a 20-year age difference. Because Yu Hai and Shi Hui both have jobs and are relatively busy. Therefore, the two grandparents who live in the same community take the initiative to take care of the granddaughter during the day. After going to kindergarten last year, it was even more obligatory to take over the pickup and drop-off work. They are not happy when others refuse to let them. Yu Liang's family is a native of Yongcheng. This is true regardless of patrilineal or matrilineal. However, the paternal lineage withered, leaving only his father Yu Hai and his uncle Yu Jiang. As for grandparents, I heard that Yu Liang had met these two old people before, but at that time, Yu Liang was still in his infancy, so he really didn't have much memory. On the contrary, it is the mother's line that has spread branches and leaves and has many relatives. Although Grandpa and Grandma are not young, they are agile and energetic. Taking care of the little granddaughter every day, she is extremely happy, not only never complaining, but secretly subsidizing her daughter's family. Of course, Yu Liang also has a brother-in-law. It's just that my uncle left Yongqing a long time ago and developed in Shanghai. I heard that he did well, at least much better than his parents. Houses in Yongqing, or housing prices in most places across the country. In the past few years, it was like riding a rocket, whizzing upwards. The uncle Yu Jiang who works in the bank urged his younger brother Yu Hai to buy a house for Yu Liang with a loan as early as 4 years ago. That house is in the Changfeng section of the urban area, 138 square meters for small bedrooms, 2 living rooms, 1 kitchen, and 2 bathrooms. This apartment is quite good. When I bought it at the beginning, It was 23,000 yuan per square meter, which emptied all the savings of the family and repaid the loan of more than 1 million yuan. But now, the housing price there has already risen to more than 35,000 per square meter. If you want to buy now, I'm afraid that if the wallets of Yu Hai and his wife were emptied, plus the wallets of the 4 grandparents, it would not be enough. Now this money is just right for repaying the mortgage. As for your own expenses, if you sell 10 bitcoins per day, according to the current selling price, that is a daily income of 1 million. As pocket money, no matter what is enough. And there are more than 4 million bitcoins on hand, and they can be sold at a rate of 10 per day, which can be sold for more than 400,000 days. This really can't be sold out until death. Well, after the opening of bank cards in various countries, the speed will be accelerated. After being busy in front of the computer for a long time, at noon, Yu Liang took a vacation and took a taxi to the Dashani Street branch of China Merchants Bank. His uncle, Yu Jiang, is the director of the credit department of the Dashani Street branch. He is considered a small leader in the bank, and he is also the leader with authority. He was the one who coordinated the loan approval back then. When he arrived at the bank gate, Yu Liang didn't go in directly, but made a phone call first. "Uncle." "Well, Xiao Liang, what's the matter?" Yu Jiang said casually while looking at the document in his hand. Yu Liang is his nephew, his only biological nephew. He is also relatively close to this nephew. The relationship between the older generation is not comparable to that among the only children in modern times. Otherwise, he would not have forced his younger brother to buy a house for his nephew. "Uncle, I'm at the bank. Are you there?" "Yes, you go to the 3rd floor. I'm in the office." "Okay." Yu Liang opened the door and hurried up to the 3rd floor. Yu Jiang glanced at him and said, "What's the matter?" Elders who have a good relationship will not pretend to receive him, but will not take him seriously. Only those relatives who are far away or do not usually move around will treat their relatives as guests. "Uncle, I'm here to pay back the money," Yu Liang said straight to the point. "What?" Yu Jiang raised his head in surprise, with a confused look on his face. He still knows the situation of this nephew very well, even better than Yu Hai, Yu Liang's father. After all, he works in finance, knows a lot, and has seen a lot in the market, far better than Yu Hai, a middle school teacher. "Uncle, I made a fortune and want to pay off the mortgage in advance." "Repay the mortgage?" Yu Jiang finally put down the documents in his hand. His expression was a little dignified, and he said, "Xiao Liang, do you know how much you have to pay back?" Yu Liang's mortgage was not repaid by himself, but by his parents. Although Yu Liang said that he has to pay back the money by himself, but he was still rejected by his stubborn father. In Yu Hai's heart, since he had a son, it was his father's responsibility to prepare a wedding house for his son. As for how his son will fare in the future, there is really nothing he can do. Yu Liang coughed lightly and said, "Uncle, I know if you pay it back now, it will be around 1.2 million. Yu Jiang frowned and said, "You have 1.2 million? Have?" Yu Jiang's face became more and more serious, and he said, "You boy, what are you doing? How come you have so much money?" In this sentence, his tone was already quite severe. Only this kind of elder, who sincerely treats him as a close relative, will treat Yu Liang with such an attitude. If the relationship is not close to a certain extent, dare to speak like this. Guaranteed that the other party will choke you, so that you can't get off the stage. Yu Liang smiled wryly and said, "Uncle, if you don't believe me so much, would I still do something illegal?" Yu Jiang pondered for a while and said, "That's right. You have the guts to do illegal things. But where did you get the money from?" For ordinary people, 1.2 million is definitely not a small number. As Yu Liang's uncle, he had to ask clearly. Yu Liang chuckled and said, "Uncle, this is what I earned from buying bitcoins." "Ah, what?" Yu Jiang asked suspiciously. "You boy, when did you buy Bitcoin?" "It's been many years, but at that time it was just for fun, and I invested my New Year's money in it. After I bought it, I forgot." Yu Liang shrugged his shoulders and said, "No, I tidied up the old computer a few days ago." "Remember?" Yu Jiang's expression became extremely strange. "Bought it early? Forgotten?" This is such a goddamn excuse. However, looking at his nephew with a calm face, he was silent for a long time and said, "Call your parents over." Chapter 5 Spend 1 million. Please draw a lottery. Yu Liang's father, Yu Hai, was a glorious junior high school people's teacher. His mother is an old lady who works in a state-owned enterprise. Although there is no possibility of promotion and salary increase, the job is quite easy and she can take care of her family. After receiving Yu Zhang's call, the couple hurried to the bank. There is no way, as a parent, I suddenly heard my son take out 1.2 million in one breath. Their family is not the kind of wealthy family who treats money like dung. Hearing this suddenly, instead of being happy, he was shocked. However, when they came to the bank and looked at the receipt that Yu Liang had just typed out, they were also stunned for a while. Inside the bank, all money transfer records can be queried. Not to mention that Yu Liang, the holder of the bank card, was right in front of him. Even if he wasn't there, Yu Jiang could find out a note saying he wanted to review Yu Liang's loan qualifications. So, see the name of the transfer party above. Even if the three of Yu Jiang had doubts, they could only choose to believe Yu Liang's words. Xiao Liang, since you are rich, why didn't you tell me when you bought the house? Yu Hai asked in confusion. Yu Liang shrugged his shoulders and said, Didn't I forget it? Besides, when we bought a house, the price of Bitcoin was not high enough to sell it. Yu Hai's eyes widened, and he said, Stinky boy, I seem to remember that at the end of last year, there were more than 60,000 US dollars in Bitcoin. Why didn't you take it out at that time? Yu Liang touched his nose and thought to himself. At that time, I didn't have a hard drive yet. Even if you want to take it, you can't take it out. However, there is no need to say this sentence. He coughed lightly and said, Uncle, I really forgot. Trust me. Yu Jiang frowned slightly and said in his heart, I believe you a ghost. However, apart from this possibility, he really couldn't imagine where his nephew's bitcoins came from. Could it be that before he went to university, he had already started? Xiao Liang, how many of that? What coins do you have in your hand? Shi Hui asked suddenly. Brother Yu Jiang immediately concentrated his attention. This is the core of the problem. Yu Liang chuckled and said, Mom, there aren't many more. Then there are more? Okay, let me keep it for you. Shi Hui said as a matter of course. I will save it for you and use it when you marry a wife in the future. Yu Liang's complexion was a little dark. What the hell, that's more than 4 million bitcoins. Even if I hand them over to you, can you really handle them? Yu Jiang shook his head slightly and said, Xiao Liang, how many do you have? Yu Liang said helplessly, It's really not much, that's all. He held up 4 fingers. There are 4 more. Yu Jiang thought for a while and said, Sister and sister, this money is earned by Xiao Liang himself. Let's put it on him. For bitcoins, that's 80,000 US dollars, equivalent to more than 500,000 yuan. If it was before, Yu Jiang would definitely be worried. But now, Yu Liang has spent 1.2 million to repay the mortgage. This shows that the child has begun to understand. Then let him handle the money himself. Shi Hui was quite sorry, but since the uncle had spoken, she listened. Repaying the mortgage also requires complicated procedures. However, under the operation of the insider Yu Jiang, Yu Liang successfully repaid the more than 1 million mortgage. Both Yu Hai and Shi Hui breathed a sigh of relief. They're the ones who are paying back the money, although the combined wages of the two are not low. But the mortgage of several thousand a month is still a huge pressure. Now that is debt-free. After completing the formalities, the family of 3 left the bank. They first went to kindergarten and brought home Yui, who was almost 5 years old. Yu Liang's family and grandparents live in an old community in Yongcheng. However, although it is an old community, elevators were also installed because of the hot renovation of the old community in the past 2 years. It is much more convenient for the old man to go up and down the stairs. After Shi Hui got home, she dragged her parents and chatted. Grandpa and Grandma are also very happy. When their family first bought the house, they scraped together 4 wallets. Because I don't want to have too much pressure on repayment, I chose 60% down payment. The mortgage is the biggest monthly expense for the daughter and son-in-law's family. Now that this confidence trouble has been solved, he is naturally overjoyed. Although the 2 old people don't know what Bitcoin is. However, as long as it is money earned through legal means, they will admit it. After returning home at night, Yu Liang turned on the computer. However, just when he clicked on the magical hard drive, a sentence jumped out suddenly. The consumption limit of the host has exceeded 1 million renminbi. Do you want to start a lottery? Yu Liang was taken aback. When he was researching this magical hard drive yesterday, he found that there was no other function except for the permanent garbage bin. But now he understood a little bit. Consumption amount? 1 million? Oh, it turns out that after spending 1 million, you can draw a lottery. Chapter 6 Upgrade. One time becomes permanent. Lottery. Of course there will be a lottery. If you don't draw a lottery, you are an idiot. Yu Liang clicked the draw without hesitation. To be honest, he doesn't have much desire for so-called money now. After all, even according to the current plan, there is a guaranteed income of at least 1 million yuan a day. What kind of bike do you need then? However, the performance of this magical hard drive is too incredible. Therefore, Yu Liang has unlimited expectations for it. Click yes. The next moment, the roulette appeared and began to spin. At this time, Yu Liang suddenly discovered something. Before that, the handwriting on the roulette was obscure, and it was impossible to see it at all. But at this moment, he could vaguely see that the roulette seemed to be divided into several large pieces. Skills, items, other. 20 seconds later, the roulette pointer finally stopped slowly and hovered over the item skill. Immediately afterwards, a line of words jumped out. Congratulations to the host. You have won the 6 cents single. Do you want to use it? Yu Liang hovered over the 6 cents. The above explanation is quite simple. The 6 cents has the magical function of seeking good luck and avoiding bad luck, and can directly point to the ultimate goal in the dark. 6 cents? Yu Liang is very familiar with this word. It is rumored that the 6 cents has many wonderful functions, and the biggest function is to seek good luck and avoid bad luck, as mentioned above. For example, there are 2 roads. If you take this road today, you may encounter a car accident. And take another road, you can reach your destination smoothly. Of course, this is just one metaphor. Therefore, although the 6 cents is a very general term, it has a great effect. Those who are born with a 6 sense, almost everyone is a successful person. However, looking at the 2 words single, Yu Liang was speechless for a while. This system is too stingy. Well, but think about it, if something like the 6 cents can be bought for $1 million, it would be too cheap. At this moment, another sentence popped up on the computer screen. Given that the consumption of the host reaches 1 million for the first time, a certain skill or item can be upgraded, single to permanent. At present, the host has the skill 6 cents, single, and the item garbage station, permanent. Do you want to upgrade the 6 cents, single? Whether? Yu Liang's eyes lit up immediately. What the hell? There is such a good thing. During the novice spree, a permanent item was directly presented, the garbage station. Spending 1 million for the first time can also upgrade the skill 6 cents, single, to permanent. Well, good, very good. Yu Liang clicked yes without hesitation. So, the 6 cents, single, on that screen becomes the 6 cents, permanent. Move the mouse and click use on the option of the 6 cents. The next moment, Yu Liang's head suddenly became cool. It was an indescribable feeling, like a brick-moving worker who was sweating profusely on a hot day, suddenly entered an air-conditioned room and took a sip of ice-cold Fat Boy water. That kind of cold, refreshing feeling all over the body. Yu Liang shivered, and then felt his whole body sublimated. After a long time, this feeling gradually subsided. I fiddled with the hard disk again and found that there was no change. Look at the balance in your bank card. Yu Liang sighed. Although in the card bring the previous deposits, there is still about 200,000. However, no matter how you look at the money, it seems to be pitifully small. So, he turned on the computer and logged into Huobai.com. However, just when he wanted to continue selling bitcoins, a vague uneasiness suddenly surged in his heart. Of course, this feeling is very light and slight. After thinking about it, Yu Liang rummaged through the drawer and found 2 bank cards. Generally speaking, when a person opens an account in a bank, he will only choose one bank. However, Yu Liang has primary savings cards from 3 different banks. China Merchants Bank, because of the uncle's relationship, the loan is also from China Merchants Bank. Of course, a bank card is required. In addition, the Yongqing Bank card is his salary card. The Ping An Bank card was the card he used to buy an insurance before. Now Yu Liang is on Bitstamp. Bitstamp is one of the world's largest Bitcoin trading platforms. It is headquartered in Slovenia and was established in 2011. Support virtual coin transactions such as Ethereum, Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum Classic, etc., with a daily transaction volume of more than 3 billion yuan. Bind his own Yongqing Bank card, and then sold 20 Bitcoins in batches. The speed is very fast, and the transaction is almost instant. Here we come to OKEX again. This is one of the world-renowned international digital asset sites, which mainly provides global users with spot and derivatives trading services of Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum digital assets, and belongs to OKEX Technology Company Limited. The Ping An Bank card is bound to this Bitcoin transaction network. This time he sold 25 Bitcoins. However, just when the 26th piece was about to be sold, a faint bad feeling suddenly lingered in my heart. Therefore, Yu Liang decisively chose to give up. Chapter 7 New Attributes 45 Bitcoins. This evening, Yu Liang sold 45 Bitcoins in one go. Moreover, Yu Liang's sixth sense told him that this deal would not bring him any danger. Yu Liang is very convinced of this. The magic hard drive has already demonstrated incredible abilities, so how could Yu Liang doubt it? Compared with yesterday, the price of Bitcoin today has risen slightly. Although it only fluctuated by more than $100, it is converted into RMB. That is a Bitcoin, you can get 700 yuan more. In short, 45 Bitcoins brought him a huge income of 6 million yuan. Moreover, the money is still legal. Yu Liang rubbed his chin, lost in thought. At this point, he had already grasped some of the operating rules of the magic hard drive. If this thing wants to work, it must draw a lottery. However, the conditions of the lottery: consumption. For every 1 million spent, there is a chance to draw a lottery. But the problem is that these drawn prizes are relatively poor, and there is a high probability that they are only single-use qualifications. Well, want to upgrade single to permanent again? I'm afraid it's not easy. Perhaps this possibility will only be possible when the consumption amount has been greatly increased. Then, there is only one thing he is trying to do now: consumption. He has to work hard to spend money. Tomorrow, let's set a small goal. Try to spend 1 million. On the hard disk, there is a description of the host. Click to open. Host: Yu Liang. Race: human. Possessibility: full score 5 points. Sixth sense: permanent. Computer software: LV 0.9. Computer hardware: LV 0.4. Own items: dumpster, permanent. Number of lucky draws owned: 0 times. Oh, compared to yesterday, his ability has indeed improved. Suddenly, a bad premonition surged in Yu Liang's heart. He thought for a while and turned off the computer. Then he opened the door and walked out. As soon as he walked to the living room, the door to the parents' bedroom opened. Hui was a little surprised when she saw her son and said, "Xiao Liang, what are you doing?" "Mom, I'm going to wash up and go to sleep." Yu Liang smiled and said, "Where's Yu Yi?" "Hey, I managed to coax you to sleep." Hui sighed and said, "Xiao Liang, you need to go to bed early. I came out to tell you to sleep." Yu Liang nodded again and said, "Mom, I'll go to bed after washing up." He paused and said, "By the way, Mom, the new house we bought has already been delivered. Why don't we move there?" Hui rolled his eyes at him angrily and said, "That's a new house for you. After your kid gets married, you and your wife can go live by yourself." Yu Liang frowned slightly and said, "Mom, we live in an old house, the quality of which is not as good as a new house." Hui sighed and said, "Yi is still in kindergarten here. Besides, my parents live in this community. If we move there, they will be lonely." It was only then that Yu Liang came to a sudden realization and suddenly had an idea in his mind. Buying a house is the real big head of consumption. However, at the current price, it is estimated that we will have to wait a few days before we can buy the kind of desirable house. After a night of nothing, Yu Liang woke up the next day and went to the company as usual. Looking through the work log, Yu Liang found that today's work is a little more than yesterday. The most important thing is that the boss has a video conference to be held with the leaders of the European and American branches. He must go to the wiring and online in advance, and must ensure the smoothness of the entire meeting. Logically speaking, this is not the job of a full-time network security engineer. However, in a private enterprise, it is the basic requirement to have one specialty and many abilities. The entire company, just him, a security network engineer, encountered such a thing. If he doesn't go up, who will go up? Although there is a huge sum of more than 6 million in the bank card. But Yu Liang went to the small conference room calmly. Wiring or something, for him, is a familiar job, even with his eyes closed. In a quarter of an hour, he had done all this. Suddenly, the door of the conference room was pushed open. A fragrant wind blew in. "Brother Yu?" A slightly surprised voice sounded. Yu Liang turned his head and saw a pretty little face. It was a little girl in her early 20s, and she was quite beautiful. Although it has not yet reached the point where the country is overwhelmed, no matter who evaluates it, there is no problem in giving it a high score of 85 points. This is no beauty, no filter, no heavy makeup, almost 85 points of plain makeup. This little girl's name is He Ling Long. She is 21 years old. She majored in foreign trade. She came here for an internship in the second half of her senior year and was assigned to do odd jobs in the office. The little girl is not only good-looking, but also youthful and beautiful, which can be called a flower. However, this is not the main thing. This little girl also has a younger sister, twin sister Helena. However, Helena was not in the office, but went to the purchasing department. There are too many students majoring in foreign trade. After graduation, there will be a brick of GM where they need to go. Oh, and before graduation, it was the same. When I came here for an internship, there was only one person in the purchasing department and one in the office. So the two sisters broke up and went to different departments. Chapter 8, I have 80 billion, and I am very low-key. Logically speaking, this pair of sisters has nothing to do with Yu Liang. However, when He Ling Long was processing a document 2 days ago, he accidentally dropped the computer to the ground. As a result, the working hard drive is gloriously reimbursed. However, on the hard disk, there are extremely important files. So, He Ling Long turned to Yu Liang, who is a network security engineer. Although Yu Liang is not a dog licker, he still agreed to such a request from his colleagues in the company. Well, of course, in the face of such a beautiful girl's begging, normal people with ability will generally not refuse. Therefore, Yu Liang spent the whole night rescuing the files in the damaged hard disk, and repurchased a second-hand hard drive worth up to 30 yuan, installed the system, and restored it as much as possible. For him, it was just one night. However, for He Ling Long, it was a real help. Reaching out and waving his hand, Yu Liang smiled and said, "Xiao, are you here to take the meeting minutes?" "Well, yes." He Ling Long nodded vigorously, and then said, "Brother Yu, thank you. If it wasn't for you, I would have been scolded to death." Seeing that delicate and flowery face, Yu Liang's heart throbbed. In fact, Yu Liang is also a person with self-knowledge. He knew that although sister He Ling Long was a slim beauty, she was pretty. But just because they are so beautiful, such people are definitely not my kind. In fact, if the pair of sisters were of that kind of cheerful personality, he wouldn't mind putting in some effort to have a dewy relationship. However, after getting to know He Ling Long in the office for a few days, Yu Liang knew about it. At the very least, the elder sister among the sisters is a conservative type. Just because he wants money but doesn't have money, talent but no talent, and good looks, it's definitely not going to work. So I put away those petty thoughts and put her she is treated as an ordinary colleague. As long as 2 months pass, their internship period will end, and it is estimated that the two parties will never have the chance to meet again. But things seem to be different now. Shaking his head slightly, Yu Liang smiled and said, "It's okay, just a little busy, don't worry about it." He Ling Long folded her hands in front of her body and said in a low voice, "It's a small matter for you. But if I really don't handle it well, I'm afraid the internship review this time will be." Yu Liang waved his hand and said, "You think too much, the company will generally be lenient towards you interns. So, don't take this matter to heart." "Okay." He Ling Long was a little surprised. Isn't Yu Liang always taciturn? Why did he talk so much in one breath today? Moreover, after he said this, she felt much better in her heart. Strange. Yu Liang seems a little different today. However, the thought was fleeting. He Ling Long whispered, "Brother Yu, I told my sister about this, and she said, this weekend I want to treat you to dinner and thank you. Is that okay? Please eat." Yu Liang thought for a while and said, "Okay, I remember that there is a pickled fish in Zhongshan Square that is very good, so let's go there." He Ling Long immediately smiled. She nodded repeatedly and said, "Okay, don't forget then. The sisters are in the internship period, although they are also paid. But this salary, I am really embarrassed to say it. Even if they wanted to invite Yu Liang to a more expensive place, their sisters couldn't afford it. However, pickled fish, 3 people, add up to about 200 yuan, of course no problem. Although this import and export trading company is private. However, the boss has a lot of energy. It is said that it has a fairly strong background, so it has branches in America and Europe. The company's headquarters in the capital. And Yongcheng is just a branch. The reason for opening a branch in Yongcheng is because Yongcheng has a famous port in the Dragon Kingdom, and many goods have to enter the country through this port, and then flow to all parts of the country. Today's video conference was held by the bosses of the 3 branches and some senior executives. As for the legendary mysterious boss who never sees the end of the dragon, he still hasn't appeared. The things reported at the meeting are actually very simple, that is, the business of last month as well as various commonplace things and so on. Yu Liang, as a lineman, listened to the monthly meeting for more than 2 years, and his ears were calloused. In the past, I heard them talk about the transaction volume of tens of millions or even tens of millions of dollars every month. Always feel tall. For the general manager of the branch, he is even more admirable. However, today it sounds like tens of millions of dollars a month, killed in a year, is several hundred million. Hey, this small amount of money sounds like a complacent expression. The structure of these people is still too small. I have 80 billion US dollars in Bitcoin. It's not that he has a calm attitude and works silently in the company. At this moment, Yu Liang felt that he was too low-key. At 10:30 noon, the meeting ended on time. Chapter 9, The Sixth Sense, Picking Flies. Yu Liang was slightly startled and said with a smile, "Didn't you say that you invited me to dinner on the weekend? How did it become noon today?" He Ling Long curled her mouth and said, "Thank you for the weekend, and I happened to meet you at noon today, so it's just by the way." She paused and then said, "I had a work meal at noon, so I can't use this to thank you, can I?" Yu Liang laughed dumbfounded and said, "Okay, it's only noon. Let me treat you." He Ling Long smiled and said, "No need. I can still afford a work meal." After finishing speaking, she took the mobile phone, lost a few times, and said, "I told my sister, let's go together." Yu Liang's heart moved slightly. Even though he knew it, he just had an ordinary work meal with this pair of sisters. Does not involve any male-female relationships. But I don't know why, but my heart is still a little bit ready to move. After the 2 of them packed up, it was already 11:30. They took the elevator to the first floor. As soon as he came to the lobby, Yu Liang saw a beautiful face exactly like He Ling Long's. Sister He Lingna. It's just that, compared to He Ling Long who works in the office, Yu Liang and He Lingna don't have much interaction. If it wasn't for He Ling Long, this little beauty probably wouldn't even know her own name. "Sister, this is Yu Liang." Yu Liang waved his hand with a smile and said, "He Lingna, we've met before. The same company. If you don't look up and see you down, you must have seen it. However, as an intern, you certainly cannot name everyone in the company. Unlike this pair of sisters, Yu Liang has a great reputation in the company, so it's normal that He Lingna doesn't know her." Blushing slightly, He Lingna put her palms together and said, "Yu Liang, I'm sorry, there are too many people in the company. But don't worry, I will definitely remember you in the future." Yu Liang couldn't help laughing and said, "Okay, what do you want to eat today? I'll treat you." "Don't," He Ling Long said hastily. "We called you, of course I treat you. What do you want to eat?" Yu Liang suddenly realized that the 3 of them seemed to be the focus in the lobby. If you think about it, a girl with a score of 85 or above without makeup will have a lot of turning heads if she stands alone. So, what if 2 85-point girls who look exactly the same stand together? If it was in the past, even if someone looked furtively, Yu Liang might not be able to notice it. But now his sixth sense is too strong. As long as people pay a little attention to him, it's hard for him not to know. I don't want to continue to show off here. After all, it's downstairs from the company, so it's not very convenient. I don't care. What do you like? Hey, what I'm most afraid of is being casual and indifferent. He Ling Long frowned and said, the two of us don't have to eat anything. We can do anything. Yu Liang was about to continue to decline, but for some reason, a thought suddenly flashed into his mind. He almost blurted out, or, let's go eat Malatang. Yeah. He Lingna's eyes widened and she exclaimed, Yu Liang, how do you know that I want to eat Malatang? Yu Liang shrugged his shoulders and said, I just said it casually. He Lingna looked at him curiously. What a coincidence. Is this a tacit understanding? Ba. What am I thinking? The three left the company and went to a nearby Malatang restaurant. Working here has an invisible benefit. That is, when eating at noon, there are a lot of choices and there are many snack bars around. Although most of the surrounding areas are old communities, the city center still has the status and scale of the city center. There are at least 5 restaurants in Malatang alone. Sister He Ling Long brought Yu Liang to the nearest house. The 3 of them took their baskets and picked out what they wanted to eat. Malatang is not expensive, but the word cheap is definitely not the same. For a bowl of ramen, 12 to 15 yuan can be spent. But Malatang is a little careless, basically starting at 20. The 3 put the basket at the cash register, and He Ling Long took 2 bottles of juice, then looked at Yu Liang and said, Brother Yu, would you like a bottle of beer? Yu Liang shook his head and said, I still have to go to work in the afternoon. Let's have a bottle of Coke. He Ling Long took the initiative to pay and spent more than 70 yuan. Yu Liang noticed that the pair of sisters didn't eat much, and they were mostly vegetarian. The price of what I ordered was almost the sum of the 2 of them. However, Yu Liang did not compete with He Ling Long to pay. Arguing over such a small amount of money, I can't afford to lose that person. Soon Malatang was delivered. He Lingna smiled. She added spicy and vinegar, picked up the chopsticks, and was about to start. Yu Liang glanced at it inadvertently, and suddenly, a rather bad feeling came to his heart. Wait a minute. Yu Liang called out hastily. What's wrong? He Lingna asked suspiciously. Yu Liang thought for a while, picked up a new pair of chopsticks, then reached into the other party's bowl and started stirring. Sister He Ling Long's expression became extremely strange. What is this guy doing? How rude. However, in the next moment they saw it. Yu Liang actually picked a fly out of the bowl. It was a small fly, so dead that it couldn't be more dead. It was mixed in a group of food, and it was difficult to distinguish. Chapter 10 Yu Liang becomes Brother Yu. Wow! Helena turned her head away, her face contorted, and she couldn't help retching. As long as a normal person encounters this situation, he will feel disgusting. What's more, Helena is still a small and exquisite girl. When she thought that she was about to eat this thing, just now, she felt a surge in her stomach, and she almost vomited it out. He Ling Long widened her eyes and called out, Flies? Her voice was not low, and she immediately caught the eyes of guests from several tables nearby. He Lingna finally felt better, but if you look closely, you can see that there seems to be a trace of water swirling in her eye sockets. It's not sad, it's disgusting. It's too much. He Lingna stood up angrily. However, just when she was about to speak, Yu Liang grabbed her arm and said, Forget it, let's go. He Lingna was startled. Yu Liang didn't take advantage of the opportunity, but immediately let go after pulling. Then he stood up, picked up a white napkin, and put the flies on the chopsticks on it. Afterwards, he beckoned, turned, and left the Malatang. The 2 sisters He Ling Long looked at each other in dismay, but they glanced at the flies on the table. The tumbling feeling made them unable to stay here anymore. So, the 2 of them left together. Inside the store, a few nearby tables saw this scene, and then looked at the flies on the snow-white napkin. Look at the steaming hot and fragrant Malatang in front of you again. Immediately, they felt it was hard to swallow. After leaving Malatang, Helena caught up with Yu Liang in 2 or 3 steps and said angrily, Yu Liang, why are you leaving? You are so cowardly. Yu Liang stopped in his tracks and said with a smile, Did you just want to scold me to vent your anger? Yes. Helena nodded without hesitation. Then, what do you do after you're done scolding? They accompany you with a bowl of malatang. Can you still eat it? Helingna's face was a little distorted, and that disgusting feeling surged up again. She said angrily, "How is it possible? I will never come to this store again." Yu Liang smiled and said, "That's it anyway. You won't go to this store again in the future. So what if you scold it? Can it really relieve your anger? In the end, it's not just embarrassing yourself." Helena opened her small cherry mouth, looking very cute. She felt that this sentence sounded reasonable, but it seemed that she was not very reconciled. Remember, in this world, happiness is the most important thing. Moreover, our time is precious, so it's best not to waste it on arguing with those vulgar people. The sisters He Ling Long looked at each other. Inexplicably, they suddenly realized that they looked at Yu Liang differently. Yu Liang smiled and said, "I encountered a very unhappy thing at noon today, so let's be happy." He Ling Long blinked her big eyes and asked, "Brother Yu, what are you happy about? I'll treat you to a big meal." Yu Liang waved his hand and said, "Come with me." The three of them turned a corner and came to the door of a Western restaurant. Yu Liang pushed the door open, led the two sisters into the restaurant, and sat down at the booth. "Brother Yu, it's very expensive here?" He Ling Long's expression was a little weird, and she said cautiously, "This is the case in the city center where there are small mom-and-pop shops with affordable prices, but maybe 2 steps away, it is this kind of big shop with a per capita consumption of at least 200 plus. If it was before, even if Yu Liang was a treat, he would not bring girls here. But now, any problem that can be solved with money is not a problem. It's okay, you have invited me to eat too. Don't talk about that." Helena quickly waved her hand and said, "I don't want to eat that again." Yu Liang couldn't help but laugh, took the menu, ordered the dishes, and placed the order. His movements are very skillful because he has been here several times with the head of the department. "Brother Yu, don't we have enough time to eat?" He Ling Long asked hesitantly. Yu Liang said with a smile, "You don't know about our company. We didn't clock in at noon. They said it was half an hour, but as long as we go back within an hour, it's fine." The two sisters looked at each other and felt relieved. This is the difference between veteran employees and interns, and their mentality is completely different. When the steak came, the three of them couldn't help but eat it. Halfway through the meal, Yu Liang made an excuse to go to the toilet and bought the bill. After all, it was just a lunch at noon, so they finished quickly and returned to the company. On the way, Yu Liang suddenly saw a door sign. Haishu District Red Cross Society. He moved slightly in his heart and said, "Go back first, I suddenly remembered something, and I have to deal with it." "Okay, see you, Brother Yu." He Ling Long waved his hand. He Lingna hesitated for a moment before saying, "Brother Yu, goodbye." After one meal, Yu Liang changed to Brother Yu. "Worth it." The two sisters returned to the company. He Lingna said secretly, "Sister, do you know how much this meal cost?" "How many?" "I just checked. 889. "Wow, so many?" He Ling Long was dumbfounded, and she tried hard to remember. "But in a daze, I couldn't figure out what kind of precious things the three of us ate that cost so much money." "Black shop. This is definitely a black shop. Too dark." "Sister, is this Yu Liang a rich second generation?" "It should know, but I think he looks very casual." He Lingna said suddenly, "Sister, go and find out." "What?" "If he is really a rich second generation, sister, you are responsible for catching him. Then there will be a long-term meal ticket from now on." He Lingna said with a smile, "At that time, if you leak a little from your hands, it will be enough for me to eat." "You damn girl, see if I don't tear your mouth apart."